Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ohio Guys here. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm being joined by Mr. Adam Gibbs. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. It's a long time coming. I'm glad we can finally be able to do this.
Yeah, it's been years. For those of you who haven't known, this interview schedule has taken us, quite a while, but we finally got it.
Definitely,
Since
definitely.
this is one of your interviews over on Skype, we have a few questions we like to ask you. First of all, what is it like working in the industry today?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun. You know, you've got to be able to kind of think on your feet and just kind of have the background to be able to kind of roll with the punches. And it's very often very often you go into the booth and you don't know too much about the project, so you've got to be flexible. You've got to be easy to work with. But ultimately, the what's so great is that the kind of love and support of outpouring from the fans really just kind of, I don't know, makes it worth it.
Excellent. So during your time in the industry, what is your favorite show you have worked on?
I've got a lot of favorites for different reasons. I had the great opportunity to work on the redub of Grave of the Fireflies. And that's such an iconic title, So, I mean, it's certainly not the easiest title to kind of get through or to watch due to the nature of it all. But just to have some connection to something so epic really means a lot to me. I also had a lot of fun on one of a title I did a long time ago, Suritama, which is such a wacky show. But it was one of my first opportunities to work on a show that was a little more outside of kind of the normal stuff that I get to do. Um, I'm very grateful to get to play the roles that I do and kind of fit into the kind of type that I most commonly play, kind of the young hero type. And Suritama was just a little crazier, and I got to kind of explore different parts of my range, and so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean honestly, I kind of have a different like kind of soft spot for each role. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Another question, and this one was in Toonami 3 years ago. What was it like working on Parasite the Maxim?
Yeah, I mean Parasite. I certainly should have put that one in the previous question, but Parasite was really huge for me. I didn't really know it was going to get the kind of support that it did, and I just kind of when I auditioned for the project, I had so my wife and I moved to San Diego during 2014. So kind of at the tail end of 2014, we moved back to Houston, and I went in to audition for the Great Kyle Jones. It was my first time working with him, although I had worked with Sentai for a couple of years before I left town. It was my first opportunity to work with him, so I went in just for an hour for a small part on a smaller show, and he said, "Hey, we're auditioning this show. I'd like to read." And the audition was that first scene where the parasite kind of comes into his room at night and kind of infects him first that first night, and that was the audition scene. And sometimes you have auditions that you feel like you nailed and you don't get the project, and sometimes you have an audition where you feel like you just really missed the mark, but it ends up working out. But alternately, sometimes there are ones where you go in and you feel so good about the audition and you book it, and that's what happened with Parasite. I felt, I don't know, I just felt really natural with it, and kind of felt the adrenaline pumping, and it just kind of worked out. So then to be able to work on a title that makes it to Toonami like that, that was my first kind of chance to kind of dive into the more national scene and or global scene really, and kind of have my name out there and also start getting feedback, a little more feedback from fans, which which is always appreciated. But yeah, and a great crew too. I mean, working opposite Brittany Karbowski, she's just obviously such a phenomenal talent, and I'd known Brittany for a number of years prior to that, where just working in in just an acting on camera class. That's where we met originally, and worked on like a little commercial together here or there, but I think that was our first big title where we really got to kind of bounce off back and forth with one another, and just a great pleasure to work with so many talented people. Yeah, love that show. Love Parasite. Yeah.
Oh, love it too. Such an awesome show.
Yeah.
So another show, and this one's comedy. Was that working on a Maggie Brilliant Park?
Yeah. That was fun, man, because a lot of the times it's like I say, I'm playing the hero guy who's, hey, we're gonna take over the world or stop the enemy force or whatever. But to play a little kind of cockier, bigger personality was a lot of fun. But what I loved so much about that show was not even what I got to do in the show, more so, the cast of characters that I was surrounded by. Normally it's like the group of 5 that are all kind of coming together, and they all have their own thing going. But in a Monkey Brilliant Park, I mean, you have just such a diverse group of characters that really kind of flavor the show in a way that you don't see in a lot of other shows. So yeah, man, just a lot of fun.
All right. Another show you worked on was that working on Chihaya Fuyu.
Yeah, that's another just great blessing. I got to work with a couple of directors on that one, and they kind of give me the background on it because obviously not a part of the culture I'm familiar with. So when I started kind of looking into Karada and kind of understanding what it was all about and seeing how significant it is, in the culture, to be able to have a part in kind of bringing that to the American audience was a great honor. And honestly, it made me want to learn how to play Karada. It's an interesting game that kind of focuses on intense focus, but also the artistry of the poetry and and the poems. And I don't know, so common in America, we find ourselves, competition. We always think of competition as hyper athletic, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, but to have a hyper competitive game, but to have such an artistic component, that kind of marries the two kind of ends of the spectrum together, is, I don't know, pretty unique, I think. And yeah, just always a pleasure to get to play these parts, man.
Yeah. Speaking of competition and athletics, was that working on Haikyuu?
Oh, Haikyuu. So, I mean, when I heard that I got to come in and audition for it, I was like, hold on, I know this show. And it was pretty cool to come in, and so many of my friends in the community have worked on the show as well. So it's funny, just the nature of voice acting and the nature of particularly dubbing. You here in Houston, it's a lot of a lot of us stock actors that work a lot in town. Not just in voiceover, but in theater and in TV and in commercials and film and industrials and all across the board. And it can be a lonely experience in the booth. It's just you and the microphone, and you've got your engineer and your director. I mean, of course, that's a simplified version. There are obviously so many more people that go into making a final product. But in terms of actually voicing, it can be lonely. But the fact that you go in and with the next episode and you hear a familiar voice, and it's like, it's you have a kinship with that voice actor in what they bring to the table and what the fans hear, and what, it's the same thing that they appreciate, but it's also, it's a friend of mine, that I have a history with, that I've known for years. And so to be able to have those voices in the booth while they're not in there with you immediately, to have their voice there, it's like just a sense of comfort and security. And I don't know, it really gives you a sense of kind of the team coming together. And what better show than Haikyuu to kind of illustrate the teamwork. Yeah, just I honestly, it made me jealous, because I'm a short guy, short-ish guy. My brothers are 6'1", 6'3", and 6'4",
Oh, wow.
and I'm 5'9", 5'10". So watching the show and seeing all these guys who are 10 feet tall and just knocking the ball across the court, it makes me wish that I had a couple more inches, so I could have done that.
Oh, wow. All right. No show worked on. What was that working on? Wingo.
Yeah. So that was one of my first, that was like my first lead. I think technically is what I would consider it. Very, very often, at least from my experience and many of my fellow voice actors here in Houston, you may come in for an audition as your first experience with voiceover. You'll come in, do some smaller parts, maybe book an hour to come in and just do some extra voices. And if that goes well, you may be considered for a larger role, and that's kind of what happened with me. And Ungo was my first opportunity to kind of jump into a larger role. And then that was my first time to play opposite the great Emily Neves, who is also just a phenomenal talent and someone who I consider a very dear friend. And fortunately, I've had the opportunity to work with in the booth quite a bit, but also on stage and other outlets. But yeah, and that's that's thanks to Stephen Foster. He was the first director that kind of took a chance on me and brought me in. And my first couple of years was really primarily just with Stephen, before I kind of got the opportunity to get noticed by some of the other directors. And so the first good handful of shows that I worked on were primarily with Stephen. And I honestly, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was down in Galveston. I was down on the beach. I was celebrating with my wife. And I got the call from Stephen. We had finished. The title slips my brain now, but it was my first kind of small role, and it went. I feel like it went well. And Stephen called and said, "Hey, I've got this new show. I know you're new to the game. I've heard some good things, and we had a good experience." And so I just said, "Hey, let's just roll the dice and let's go with it. I think you'll be a good fit, and let's take the chance and let's go for it." And I hung up the phone, like just jumped up and down, and was just totally pumped, and got to go in and really kind of take on the load and the weight of a larger role. And really, I'm really grateful to have worked on that show, because it did open a lot of other doors for me. And here we are several years later, and things are going well.
Foster's the man, so I gotta say.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah. So another show. This one is a Funimation one. Was that working on Hyoka?
Yeah. Hyoka, yeah. So, I got really lucky, man. I obviously I wanted to work with Funimation for quite some time now, and that was one of the first titles. There's another title that I don't think I can talk about just yet, but that was kind of my first jump up to Funimation, working with Mike McFarland, and we had a great experience there, and much like working with Stephen. that first kind of project went well, and we jived and got on very well, and so he kind of took a chance on me again and cast me in that. And it's such a great show. It's such a simple show. It's not your high flying action show. It's much more laid back and frankly easier to voice because you're not screaming and yelling and taking punches. It's just a little more calm and collected and cool and laid back. And but I really love what they did with the animation in that show. I think is really incredible. Just a lot of attention to detail and kind of a lot of the transitions and the music. Just so that was like my first real kind of full series as a lead there with Funimation, and that was just such an honor. And same thing again, kind of opening doors. That project kind of sprung me into a few other projects that I've been fortunate enough to work with the crew up at Funimation. It's a big operation they got going up there. They got a lot of studios, they got a lot of directors, and they have great talent pool up there. So it can be difficult being down in Houston. That's a 4-hour drive. So it's a real challenge to be able to get up there and make yourself available to perform. And if you're working on a simuldub up there, if you're coming up weekly, that's 8 hours in the car for a couple of hours of recording, but ultimately it's worth it. And the great luxury up there is that because the operation is a larger one, and there are so many directors, they're working on a lot of projects all the time, so they need a lot of voice actors. And so you go up for but then before you get out, they kind of check with the other directors to make sure, hey, do you have any small little one-liners you need, or and so that's an opportunity to kind of get to know some of the other directors. And it's just kind of that snowball effect. You work with one director and it goes well, and they're kind and generous enough to kind of help get your name out there and say, hey, this guy Adam, he's great. You got give him a chance. And fortunately, so many directors have. And I don't know. I was always taught. My background was from theater. I was born and raised in the theater. My first play, I was 5 years old. It's what I've done my whole life, and it's really where I really grew a real love and passion for the arts, and that obviously translated into anime and dubbing. And I was always taught in my little community theater in the small country town that I grew up in. Be easy to work with, be nice to people, smile. Don't bring your ego, bring your skills, bring your talents, bring your work ethic. And it's very easy to cast those things aside, whatever, it's not a big deal. But to me it is, and I think I'm living proof that those things do matter. People want to work with people that they like to work with and people that they get along with. And if you take your job seriously and you're nice, and you bring a certain level of quality to whatever project you're working on, you're bound to get more work. And also, you can't be the lead in everything. You've got to be able to accept a small part graciously and just be happy to be working and be happy to be a part of a project, and not, like I say, not let your ego get in the way. And I was taught that since I was 5, to not let those things distract you and kind of get in the way of your ultimate goal. And here I am 20-something years later, and it's paying off, and and fortunately I continue to work, and it's what I love to do, and I get on with the people I work with, because it's a very unique community, the anime world, and it's commonly a lot of people who get swept aside and who don't kind of get that first chance, and it takes the second or third or fourth chance to kind of really get your feet under you. but it's a world that is forgiving, I think, to a certain extent, maybe more so than others, and yeah, it's I couldn't be more blessed to kind of get to be a part of it.
That's some wisdom right there, I gotta say.
Yeah, man.
All right. Now a funny question I like to ask you: if you could be
Yeah,
any
man.
character you have played in real life, who will you be? And you
Mm.
can mix and match.
I can't mix and match. You say I can't mix. Okay, okay. I mean, haikyu's one. I wouldn't mind being taller. Uh, Gosh, I would say Parasite, but I'm not trying to be infected. So not Parasite. Um, Man, I should have thought about this more. Um, you know what? I've got one that I'm. This is a cop out answer, but I've got a project working on currently that I can't quite discuss. Um, and I think that's my guy. I think that's my guy. So I
Okay.
guess you guys will just have to, tune in or check out my Twitter and, and come to find out.
All right. Is there anything else coming out that you can talk about, or anything you want to plug in at this time?
Yeah. So yes, I'm trying to think of what I can talk about and what I can't. Um, uh, well, it has been announced, and it's out there. Tokyo Ghoul is a project that I'm so happy to have joined on board with in its third season. Tokyo Ghoul Re. Um, it's again, just it's really really great to be up at Funimation and working on some of their bigger titles. But also keep an eye out for Sentai because they're kind of jumping into the world of the kind of what they're calling dubcast. The same kind of concept of airing. And so there's a couple of titles I'm working on here that I'm also excited about that are will be revealed soon. So yeah, so tune in and check them out.
Okay. And we have one final question we'd like to ask you.
Yeah,
Any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for the fans to contact you?
yeah. Honestly, my Facebook, I've got a few anime fans on Facebook. Honestly, I haven't switched over to kind of the anime voice actor, specialty page yet. So I'm not super active in the anime world on my Facebook. It's all primarily Twitter. And also with Twitter, I don't really focus too much on my friends and family and those kind of things in Twitter. I let Twitter be the anime world that I love to live in. So I'm at Adam Gibbs. My middle name Nathaniel. That was originated. My dad he says Adam Gibbs. I'm not sure if we can say that in our podcast here, but
You can.
yeah. So Adam Gibbs at Adam Gibbs. That's me. So yeah. Check me out, follow me, and kind of keep you up to date on the things I'm working on, and yeah, just kind of staying tuned in.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the interview. We really appreciate having you on Skype with us.
Yeah, man, I can't thank you enough. I'm so sorry it took this long. It's so crazy how many times we've tried to make it happen, but things come up and life happens. But hey, I guess better late than never, right?
Yeah, no, it happened. That's all we care about. We finally had this
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another edition of the How Guys. Thank you all. I'm Christian, and he's Adam.
I'm Adam.
And we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.